1. The voicemail. The voicemail came through at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. Erin had been half asleep, phone face down on the nightstand, when the vibration pulled her back into consciousness. She'd let it go to voicemail without thinking, too tired to care, too numb from another 14-hour shift at the hospital to engage with whoever needed her now. But something made her check it. Maybe it was the way the notification sat there, glowing softly in the dark. Maybe it was the strange electric feeling that crawled up her spine the moment she saw the timestamp. Or maybe, on some level deeper than thought, she already knew. She pressed play, static first, then breathing, soft, measured, like someone gathering their thoughts, and then, "Hey, it's me, Noah." Her heart stopped. "I know it's been a while. I wanted to hear your voice, I guess. It's weird here without you. The house feels different. Empty, kind of. But also, like it's waiting for something. Anyway, I'm rambling. Call me back when you get this, okay? I miss you." The message ended. Erin sat frozen in the dark, phone clutched in both hands, staring at the screen like it might suddenly make sense. Her breath came shallow and fast. Her mind raced through 1,000 explanations, each one more impossible than the last. Noah Brennan had died 12 years ago. She'd been at the funeral. She'd watched them lower the casket into the ground on a grey October morning, rain mixing with tears until she couldn't tell which was which anymore. She'd stood beside his mother, a woman hollowed out by grief, and held her hand while the priest said words that meant nothing to anyone. The house had burned. That's what they'd told her. Electrical fire, they said, started in the walls, spread fast. Noah had been asleep upstairs. He never made it out. She remembered the calls, the news. The footage of the charred remains on the evening broadcast, blackened beams jutting into the sky, the roof collapsed, firefighters standing in the smoking rubble. She remembered the long, awful days that followed. She remembered everything. And yet, "Hey, it's me, Noah." His voice sounded exactly as she remembered it, warm, a little uncertain, with that slight rasp he'd always had, like he was perpetually recovering from a cold. It was unmistakably him. Erin played the message again and again. Each time, her heart hammered harder. Each time, the room felt smaller, the walls pressing in. By the fourth listen, she was pacing, phone pressed to her ear, trying to catch something she'd missed, a clue, a flaw, proof that this was a sick joke or a technical glitch or some kind of audio deepfake. But it wasn't. She knew his voice. She scrolled through her contacts with trembling fingers, found the old number she'd never been able to delete, and stared at it. The name still read Noah Brennan, followed by a small sunflower emoji she'd added when they were 17. She didn't call it. Instead, she opened her Photos app and scrolled back, further and further, past birthdays and hospital shifts and coffee dates, all the way to the oldest folder, the one she rarely looked at anymore. Summer 2013. There they were, Erin and Noah sitting on the porch steps of his house, both grinning like idiots. She was mid-laugh, head tilted back, hair wild. He was looking at her instead of the camera. She touched the screen lightly, as if the image might dissolve. The house behind them in the photo was pale yellow with white trim, 2 stories, a wraparound porch, and a brick chimney that had always leaned slightly to the left. She remembered the smell of it. Old wood and lavender soap and something faintly sweet she could never quite place. That house had burned. She'd seen the news footage herself, the charred frame, the collapsed roof, The fire trucks parked in the street while neighbors stood in their bathrobes, watching. And yet Noah's voice, calm and present, had just asked her to call him back. Erin didn't sleep that night. By 6 a.m., she'd made a decision. She called in sick to work, something she almost never did, and threw a duffel bag together. Jeans, sweaters, toiletries, her phone charger, a flashlight she wasn't sure why she needed. She moved on autopilot, hands shaking, mind blank except for the single, pulsing thought. I have to go back. The drive took 4 hours. Erin hadn't been back to Millbrook in over a decade. After the fire, after the funeral, she'd left for college and never looked back. Her parents had moved away a few years later. There was nothing tying her to that town anymore, nothing but ghosts. But as the highway gave way to back roads, as the trees thickened and the signs became familiar again, she felt something shift inside her, a weight settling, a door creaking open. She passed the old gas station where they used to buy slushies in the summer, the elementary school with the rusted swing set, the diner with the crooked neon sign that read Rosie's in flickering pink letters. Everything looked smaller than she remembered, faded, like the town itself had been holding its breath for 12 years. And then, finally, she turned onto Maple Street. Her hands tightened on the wheel. The house was there, not burned, not collapsed, not a blackened husk surrounded by caution tape and memories. There, pale yellow with white trim, 2 stories, wraparound porch, the chimney still leaning slightly to the left. Erin pulled over and killed the engine. For a long time, she just sat there, staring. The house looked maintained. The grass was mowed. The porch was swept. There were curtains in the windows, pale blue, the kind Noah's mom used to love. It didn't look haunted. It looked lived in. Erin's pulse roared in her ears. Her hands felt cold. This doesn't make sense. She'd seen the footage. She'd seen the ruins. The fire department report had confirmed total structural loss. She remembered her mother showing her the article. Local teen dies in house fire, with a photo of the smoking debris. And yet, here it stood. Whole. Impossible. She opened the car door slowly, like any sudden movement might shatter the illusion, and stepped out onto the sidewalk. The air smelled like autumn, damp leaves and wood smoke. A dog barked somewhere in the distance. A car passed, his driver not even glancing her way. Everything was normal. Everything was wrong. She crossed the street, climbed the porch steps, and stood in front of the door. Her hand hovered over the doorbell. "What are you doing?" She didn't ring it. Instead, she reached into her jacket pocket and pulled out her wallet. Tucked into one of the card slots, behind an old library card and a faded receipt, was a small brass key. She didn't remember putting it there, but she knew what it was. The spare key to Noah's house. He'd given it to her when they were 16, back when they spent every day together, back when this place had felt like a second home. Erin slid the key into the lock. It turned smoothly. The door opened. The smell hit her first. Lavender soap, old wood, and that faint, sweet something she'd never been able to name. It was exactly as she remembered. Exactly. She stepped inside. The hallway stretched ahead of her, dim and quiet. To the left, the living room, with its sagging couch and cluttered bookshelves. To the right, the kitchen with the yellow wallpaper and the table that always wobbled. Erin moved slowly, each step deliberate, her breath shallow. Everything was in its place. The framed photos on the walls, the worn rug in the entryway, the coat rack by the door, still holding a denim jacket she remembered Noah wearing. She walked into the living room and stopped. The mantel above the fireplace was lined with frames, family photos, school portraits, candid shots from vacations and birthdays, but one was missing. There was a gap between two frames, a rectangular outline in the dust where something had been. Erin's skin prickled. She turned slowly, scanning the room, the couch, the coffee table, the bookshelf. Nothing was out of place, and yet everything felt off, like she was looking at a photograph instead of a real room, like the house was holding its breath. She opened her mouth to call out, to say his name, to ask if anyone was home, but the words caught in her throat. Instead, she whispered it. "Noah?" The silence swallowed her voice, and somewhere upstairs, a door quietly clicked shut. Act 2. The door was already open. Erin didn't move. The sound had been faint, barely more than a whisper of wood against wood, but unmistakable. A door closing. Upstairs. Her eyes drifted toward the staircase at the end of the hall, the same staircase she climbed 1,000 times as a teenager, racing Noah to the top, laughing too loud, always breathless. Now it sat in shadow, the upper landing dark and still. She should leave. Every instinct screamed at her to turn around, walk out the door, get in her car and drive until this place was a speck in her rearview mirror. But her feet didn't move. Instead, she found herself stepping deeper into the living room, her gaze sweeping over every detail. The throw blanket draped over the arm of the couch, faded green, soft cotton, the same one Noah's mom used to wrap around her shoulders during movie nights. The stack of books on the coffee table, Slaughterhouse 5, The Left Hand of Darkness, House of Leaves, Noah's favorites. Erin reached out and touched the top book. The cover was dusty but not brittle, not water-damaged or warped, not burned. She pulled her hand back as if stung. This doesn't make sense. She'd seen the footage. The news had shown the aftermath. The gutted structure, the collapsed second floor, the charred beams jutting into the sky like broken ribs. And yet, here it all was, intact, preserved. Erin moved into the kitchen. The yellow wallpaper, patterned with tiny daisies, was faded but clean. The linoleum floor, cracked in places, gleamed faintly in the afternoon light, filtering through the window. The table still wobbled when she brushed against it. On the counter beside the sink sat a ceramic mug. Erin froze. It was white with a chipped handle. The words, "World's okayest friend," printed in fading black letters. Noah had bought it at a thrift store as a joke and used it every morning for coffee. She stepped closer. Steam rose from the mug in faint, curling wisps. Her breath caught. Slowly, carefully, she reached out and touched the ceramic. Warm. She jerked her hand back, heart slamming against her ribs. Someone had been here, recently, very recently. "Hello?" Her voice cracked. "Noah?" No answer. She backed out of the kitchen, pulse hammering, and nearly collided with the hallway wall. Her hands were shaking. Her mind raced through explanations. Squatters, relatives, some kind of caretaker, but none of them made sense. Why would anyone maintain a house that was supposed to have burned down 12 years ago? She moved toward the front door, needing air, needing space, but as she reached for the handle, movement outside the window caught her eye. A man was walking past on the sidewalk, older, maybe mid-60s, with a scruffy grey beard and a tired-looking dog on a leash. He glanced toward the house, paused, and his expression shifted. Surprise, maybe, or concern. Erin yanked the door open. "Excuse me." The man stopped, the dog sniffing at a patch of grass. He turned slowly, his face wary. "Yeah." Erin stepped onto the porch, trying to steady her voice. "Do you live around here?" 2 streets over. Name's Frank." His tone was cautious, like he wasn't sure whether she was trouble. "Why?" "I'm—" She hesitated. "What am I?" "I'm looking for someone. Noah Brennan. Do you know him?" Frank's expression flickered. Something passed over his face. Confusion, maybe unease, but he covered it quickly. "Brennan," he repeated slowly, looking past her at the house. "The Brennan house?" "Yes. Noah lived here. Do you remember him?" Frank's jaw tightened. He glanced at the house again, then back at her, and when he spoke, his voice was flat. "That house burned down 12 years ago. I saw it myself. The whole thing, gutted. Nothing left but the foundation and some charred beams." Erin's stomach dropped. "But it's right there," she said, gesturing behind her. "It's—" "I know what it looks like," Frank interrupted. His eyes were hard now, his expression grim. "But that doesn't mean it should be there." "What do you mean?" Frank shifted uncomfortably, the dog tugging at the leash. "House came back somehow. Took about 6 months. No construction crews, no permits, nothing. Just appeared." Piece by piece he paused, his voice dropping, like it was remembering itself. Erin felt cold. "That's not possible." "No," Frank agreed quietly. "It's not." They stood in silence for a moment. The dog whined softly. "People stay away from it now," Frank continued. "That's just how it is. We drive past. We don't look too close. We don't ask questions." He met her eyes. "The ones who don't follow that rule, well, they don't leave." "What do you mean they don't leave?" "I mean exactly that." Frank's voice was steady, matter of fact. "Few years back, some kid broke in on a dare. His friends waited outside. He went in through the back door." He paused. "Never came out. Police came, searched the place top to bottom. Nothing. No sign of him. After that—" He trailed off, shaking his head. After that, they stopped answering calls about the place." Erin's skin crawled. "Have you—" She swallowed. "Have you ever seen anyone inside? Lights on, movement, anything?" Frank's expression darkened. "Sometimes. Late at night, mostly. Lights in the upstairs windows. Shadows moving behind the curtains." He looked at her directly. "Once I could have sworn I saw someone standing on the porch. A kid, teenager maybe, just standing there, watching the street." "When was this?" "Last month, month before. Hard to say." He shook his head. "Look, miss, I don't know what you're doing here, but my advice, get back in your car and leave. That house—" He glanced past her one more time. "It wants something. And whatever it wants, it's patient enough to wait." He tugged the dog's leash and turned to walk away. "Wait," Erin called. "Did you know Noah? The boy who died in the fire?" Frank stopped, but didn't turn around. "I remember the funeral," he said quietly. "I remember his mother. She moved away not long after. Couldn't stand being here anymore." He paused. "But sometimes I think maybe she was the smart one. Maybe she knew something we didn't." "Like what?" Frank finally turned back, his expression unreadable. Like maybe her son never really left. Then he walked away, the dog trotting beside him, and disappeared around the corner. Erin stood frozen on the porch watching him go. The house came back, like it was remembering itself. She turned back toward the doorway. The house didn't look malevolent. The windows weren't boarded up. The porch wasn't sagging. There were no signs of decay or neglect. But Frank's words echoed in her mind. The ones who don't leave. She should call someone. The police, the fire department, someone official who could explain why a house that burned to its foundation was standing here, fully intact, as if 12 years had never passed. But she already knew what would happen. They'd come, they'd look, they'd see the same thing she did, and then they'd leave, just like everyone else. Because some things, once you acknowledge them, become real in ways you can't undo. Erin stepped back through the doorway, leaving the door slightly ajar behind her. The house seemed to exhale around her, a soft, settling creak that made her skin prickle. She moved through the hallway again, slower this time, more deliberate. Every step felt heavier, like she was wading through something thick and unseen. In the bathroom, off the main hall, she found a hand towel draped over the edge of the sink. It was damp. Erin touched it lightly, her fingers coming away cool and slightly wet. Someone had used this. Today. She backed out of the bathroom and returned to the living room, her gaze drawn once again to the mantel, the missing photo. She scanned the other frames, trying to remember what had been there. Family portraits, mostly. Noah and his mom at the beach, Noah's high school graduation, a candid shot of him and Erin at a bonfire, faces lit by flickering orange light. But the empty space, she couldn't remember what it had held. And then, as if the house itself had decided to answer her, she saw it. The photo was back. It sat in the center of the mantel now, slightly crooked, in a simple wooden frame. Erin's breath hitched. It was a picture of Noah and her, arms slung around each other's shoulders, grinning at the camera. They looked maybe 17, maybe 18. Behind them, the pale yellow house rose into a clear blue sky. But something was wrong. Erin stepped closer, squinting at the image. In the photo, Noah's arm was draped around the empty space. She was gone. Her figure had been erased, leaving only a faint blur where she should have been. Noah's arm hovered awkwardly in midair, his grin aimed at nothing. Erin's hands went cold. She reached out and picked up the frame, turning it over. The back was sealed, no sign of tampering. She set it down carefully, heart pounding, and backed away. This isn't real. This can't be real. But the mug had been warm. The towel had been damp. The photo had moved. Someone is here, or something. Erin turned toward the stairs. The second floor waited in shadow, silent and still. She didn't want to go up there, but she had to. She crossed the hallway and placed one foot on the bottom step. It creaked softly. She climbed. Act 3. What's Left Behind. The upstairs hallway was narrower than Erin remembered. Or maybe it just felt that way now. Compressed by shadow and silence, the walls pressing in like the house itself was holding its breath. 3 doors lined the hall. Noah's room at the far end, his mom's room to the left, and the bathroom to the right. All 3 doors were closed. Erin stood at the top of the stairs, her pulse a steady drum in her ears. The floorboards beneath her feet were the same scuffed hardwood she remembered, the same runner rug stretching down the center, faded blue with fraying edges. Everything was the same. And that was the problem. 12 years. 12 years since the fire, since the funeral, since she'd last set foot in this house, and yet there was no dust, no decay, no signs of time passing at all. It was as if the house had been frozen, preserved like an insect in amber. She moved toward Noah's door. Her hand hovered over the knob for a long moment before she finally turned it. The door swung open. The smell hit her first. Detergent, old paper, and something faintly sweet, like vanilla. Noah's smell, the one she'd almost forgotten. The room was exactly as she remembered it. Band posters on the walls. The Smiths, Radiohead, a faded Nirvana poster with a torn corner. a desk cluttered with notebooks, pencils, a stack of burned CDs in cracked plastic cases. The bed was made, the blue comforter pulled tight, pillows arranged neatly, too neatly. Erin stepped inside, her breath shallow. On the nightstand sat a small lamp with a green glass shade. She remembered it, and beside it, a framed photo. She picked it up. It was recent, impossibly recent. The photo showed Erin and Noah standing in front of a cafe, both holding iced coffees, both smiling. She was wearing a jacket she'd bought 2 years ago. Her hair was the length it was now, not the way it had been when they were teenagers. But Noah looked exactly the same. 17, maybe 18, unchanged. Erin's hands trembled. She set the photo down carefully, like it might shatter, and backed away. This isn't possible. She turned toward the desk and began rifling through the clutter. Notebooks filled with sketches and song lyrics, old homework assignments, a half-finished letter that started with "Dear Erin" and ended mid-sentence, and then she found it. A spiral-bound journal, black cover, pages dog-eared and worn. She opened it. The handwriting was Noah's, slanted, a little messy, unmistakable. Most of the entries were mundane. Notes about school, music recommendations, doodles in the margins. But as she flipped toward the end, the tone shifted. October 10th. I don't know how to explain this. Time feels wrong here. I'll think it's Tuesday and then realize I've lost 3 days. Or I'll remember something that hasn't happened yet. It's like the house is, I don't know, playing tricks. October 15th. Mum doesn't notice. Or maybe she does and just doesn't say anything. I tried to tell her yesterday that I think something's wrong, but the words wouldn't come out right, like the house didn't want me to. October 20th. I saw Erin today, except I didn't. She was standing in the hallway downstairs, just staring at me, and then she was gone. I called her after, but she said she hadn't been here in weeks. I don't think I believe her. Erin's chest tightened. She flipped to the last entry. October 28th. The trick is to forget slowly. That's how the house wins. If you forget all at once, you notice. But if it takes pieces little by little, a name here, a face there, you don't realize what you've lost until it's too late. I think I'm losing myself. I think I already have. The entry ended there. Erin closed the journal, her hands shaking. She turned toward the window, the same window Noah used to sit beside for hours, reading or sketching or just staring out at the street, and froze. The glass was fogged, not from the cold, not from condensation, from the inside, and in the fog, someone had traced words with their finger. You came back. Erin's breath caught. The letters were fresh, still glistening slightly. She reached out, her fingertips brushing the glass, and felt the dampness. Who wrote this? She spun around, scanning the room, but there was no one. The door was still half open, the hallway beyond empty and silent. Noah. Her voice was barely a whisper. No answer. She crossed the room and stepped into the hallway, her pulse hammering. The bathroom door was open now. She was certain it had been closed before. Erin moved toward it slowly, every nerve on edge. Inside, the bathroom was small and dated. White tile, a pedestal sink, a clawfoot tub with a plastic curtain. The mirror above the sink was fogged, just like the window in Noah's room. And in the center of the fog, written in the same careful script, "Don't forget." Erin's knees went weak. She gripped the edge of the sink, staring at the words, her reflection barely visible beneath them. Don't forget what? A sound behind her made her whirl around, a door closing, softly, deliberately, downstairs. Erin moved into the hallway and stopped at the top of the stairs. The front door was shut. She hadn't closed it. She was sure she hadn't. Her hands clenched into fists. She wanted to run down the stairs, out the door, into her car, far away from this place and whatever was happening here. But instead, she found herself whispering into the silence, "I'm here, Noah." I came back. The house seemed to shift around her, the walls creaking softly, the air growing heavier, and from somewhere below, faint, distant, barely more than a breath, she heard it. I know. Act 4. The Night of the Fire. Erin didn't remember going downstairs. One moment she was standing at the top of the staircase, frozen, the whispered words still echoing in her mind. The next, she was in the living room again, sitting on the edge of the couch, her hands pressed flat against her thighs to stop them from shaking. The house felt different now, not threatening exactly, not malevolent, expectant, like it was waiting for her to remember something, like it had been waiting for 12 years. Erin's gaze drifted back to the mantel, to the photo where her figure had been erased. Noah's arm still hovered in empty space, his grin aimed at nothing. Don't forget. But forget what? She closed her eyes and tried to think back, really think back, to the last time she'd been in this house. It had been October. She was 18. Noah had called her after school, his voice strangely quiet, asking if she wanted to come over. She said yes, like she always did. But something had been different that day. Noah had seemed off, distracted. He'd kept glancing toward the hallway, toward the stairs, like he was listening for something she couldn't hear. "You okay?" she'd asked. "Yeah," he'd said. "Just tired." But he hadn't been tired. He'd been scared. She remembered that now. The way his hands had fidgeted, the way his smile hadn't quite reached his eyes. And she remembered what happened next. She'd been supposed to stay over that night. They'd planned to watch movies, order pizza, fall asleep on the couch like they always did. But at the last minute, she changed her mind. Why? Erin pressed her palms against her temples, trying to pull the memory into focus. Her mom had called. That was it. Her mom had called and said she needed Erin to come home. Something about helping with her younger sister. Some excuse that hadn't really mattered. And Erin had left. She'd hugged Noah goodbye, promised to call him the next day, and walked out the door. And the next morning, the house had burned. Erin's chest tightened. She'd never forgiven herself for that, for leaving, for not being there. If she'd stayed, maybe she would have woken up when the fire started. Maybe she could have gotten him out. Maybe he'd still be alive. But he is alive. The thought slid into her mind like a knife. His voice on the voicemail, the warm mug of coffee, the damp towel, the words in the fog. He's here. Erin stood abruptly, her heart pounding. She crossed the living room and entered the small den off the main hallway, a cramped, cluttered space with a sagging armchair and shelves overflowing with VHS tapes and old records. In the corner sat an answering machine. She'd forgotten about it. An ancient, clunky thing with a blinking red light that indicated one new message. Erin's breath caught. She pressed play, static first, then breathing, then, "Hey, it's me. I wanted to hear your voice, I guess. It's weird here. Empty, kind of, but also like it's waiting for something. Anyway, I'm rambling. Call me back when you get this." Erin's blood turned to ice. It was the same message, the exact same voicemail she'd received. But this time, she heard what she'd missed before. He never said her name. He'd said, "I wanted to hear your voice." But he hadn't said Erin. He hadn't said who the message was for. She played it again, leaning closer to the machine. It's weird here. Empty, kind of, but also like it's waiting for something. Waiting for what? Or waiting for who? Erin's stomach turned over. He'd never said her name. Not in the voicemail. Not in the message on the machine. I wanted to hear your voice. Whose voice? Anyone's. Everyone's. Anyone who remembered him enough to come back. The house hadn't called her specifically. It had just been calling, and she'd answered. Erin backed away from the machine, her mind spinning. And then the room shifted. Not physically, not in any way she could name. But suddenly the furniture looked different. Older, more worn. The light filtering through the window dimmed, turning golden and thick like late afternoon sun. She heard footsteps upstairs, slow, deliberate. Erin's pulse roared in her ears. She moved into the hallway and looked up the stairs. A shadow passed across the wall at the top, tall, thin, unmistakably human. Noah. No answer. The footsteps continued, moving toward his bedroom. Erin climbed the stairs, each step creaking beneath her weight. The air grew colder as she ascended, her breath misting faintly. When she reached the top, Noah's door was ajar. She pushed it open. The room was empty, but the window was open now, curtains billowing softly in the breeze. On the desk sat something she hadn't noticed before. A backpack, old, faded, covered in patches and pins. Noah's backpack. Erin approached it slowly. Inside, she found a sketchbook, a warm man with tangled headphones, a half-empty pack of gum, and a folded piece of paper. She unfolded it with trembling hands. It was a drawing, pencil on lined paper, the edges worn and creased. The image showed two figures standing in front of a house. Noah and Erin, clearly, their faces rendered in careful detail. But in the drawing, the house behind them was burning. Smoke poured from the windows. Flames licked at the roof, and yet both figures were smiling, oblivious. At the bottom of the page, written in Noah's handwriting, "What if we never left?" Erin's hands shook so hard she nearly dropped the paper. She turned toward the window and froze. Outside, in the yard, she saw him. Noah, standing beneath the oak tree exactly where he used to stand when they were kids. His back was to her, hands in his pockets, shoulders slightly hunched. Erin's heart seized. She bolted from the room, down the stairs, through the hallway, and out the front door. The yard was empty. No one beneath the tree, no figure, no shadow. Only the soft rustle of leaves in the wind. Erin stood on the porch, chest heaving, staring at the spot where he'd been. He was there. I saw him, wasn't he? She turned back toward the house. The front door was open, spilling warm light onto the porch, and inside, she could hear it now, faint, distant, like an echo from another time. Laughter, hers and Noah's. The sound of a movie playing, the creak of the couch as they shifted positions, the clink of glasses, the rustle of popcorn, a memory, or something else. Erin stepped back inside. The laughter stopped. Act 5. What if he never left? Erin stood in the doorway, her hand still on the doorknob, listening to the silence settle back into the house like dust. The echo of laughter, their laughter, was gone, but it left something behind, a weight in the air, a presence she couldn't name. She closed the door softly and turned toward the stairs. She knew where she needed to go. The second floor felt heavier now, the shadows deeper. Each step groaned beneath her weight, the sound swallowed almost immediately by the thick, expectant quiet. When she reached the top, she turned left toward the room she'd been avoiding. His mum's room, the room where the fire had started. The door was closed. Erin's hand hovered over the knob. her pulse a steady drum in her throat. She turned it. The door swung open. The room was smaller than she remembered, cramped and dim, with a single window facing the backyard. The bed was made, the quilt faded but clean. A dresser sat against one wall, its surface cluttered with framed photos, a jewelry box, a small lamp with a tasseled shade, and in the corner, beside the closet, sat the object she'd been searching for without knowing it. Noah's Walkman. The same one from his backpack, but here, now, in this room, resting on the floor as if someone had just set it down. Erin crossed the room and knelt beside it. The headphones were tangled, the orange foam earpieces cracked and peeling. She picked it up carefully, turning it over in her hands. Inside the tape deck was a cassette. No label, just a strip of masking tape across the front with 2 words scrawled in fading marker. For Erin. Her breath caught. She pressed play. Static first. Then the soft hiss of a recording starting. Then Noah's voice, quiet and close, like he was whispering directly into her ear. I don't know if you'll ever hear this. I don't even know if I'll have the guts to give it to you. But I need to say it, so here goes. A pause, the faint sound of him shifting, adjusting the microphone. I think something's wrong with me. Or maybe something's wrong with the house. I can't tell anymore. Time doesn't work right here. I'll wake up and it's the same day, or I'll remember things that haven't happened yet, or I'll lose whole hours and not know where they went. Erin's hands tightened around the Walkman. And I keep seeing you. Not the real you. I know the difference. But echoes, I guess. Like the house is holding on to you somehow. Like it doesn't want to let you go. Another pause, longer this time. I don't think I'm supposed to be here anymore, Erin. I think I stayed too long. And now I don't know how to leave. His voice cracked slightly. I'm sorry. For calling you, for making you come back, but I needed you to know I'm still here, and I think I always will be. The recording ended. Erin sat frozen, the Walkman clutched in her lap, tears streaming down her face. He knew. He'd known something was wrong. He'd known he was stuck, and he'd left this for her. A message in a bottle, cast into a future he wasn't sure he'd reach. She wiped her eyes and stood, legs unsteady, and turned toward the window. Outside, the sun was setting, the sky streaked with orange and pink, the yard stretched out below empty and still, except for the tree. And beneath it, barely visible in the fading light, a figure. Erin's breath hitched. She crossed to the window and pressed her hands against the glass. It was Noah. She was sure this time. He stood with his back to her, hands in his pockets, shoulders hunched, exactly as she'd seen him before. Slowly, he turned. His face was the same. 17, 18, unchanged. But his eyes were hollow, not empty, not dead, waiting. Erin's hand slid from the glass. She turned and ran, down the stairs, through the hallway, out the front door, onto the porch, into the yard. She stopped beneath the tree, chest heaving, spinning in place. He was gone, but she could still feel him, close, right there, just out of sight, like if she turned fast enough she'd catch him. Noah, please, she whispered, talk to me. I'm here. I came back. The wind rustled through the branches above, and then, so faint she almost missed it, she heard his voice, not from outside, from inside the house. I know you did. Erin turned slowly, her eyes fixed on the open front door. The house seemed to glow from within now, every window lit with warm golden light, not the harsh fluorescence of modern bulbs, but the soft amber glow of late afternoon sun filtering through curtains. the kind of light that made everything look like a memory. She walked back toward the porch, her footsteps slow and measured. As she climbed the steps, she caught her reflection in the window beside the door and froze. She looked younger, not drastically, not impossibly, but her face was softer, less lined. Her hair fell the way it had in high school. She was wearing the same jacket from the photo on Noah's nightstand, the one she hadn't owned 12 years ago. When did I put this on? She touched the fabric. It felt real, worn, like she'd owned it for years. Erin's breath quickened. The house wasn't just holding on to Noah, it was holding on to them. The version of them that had existed here, in this place, in this time. And it wanted them back. She couldn't remember. Erin pushed open the door and stepped inside. The house was different now, not in layout, but in feeling. It felt alive. The air hummed with something she couldn't name. Warmth, maybe, or recognition. She moved through the hallway, her hand trailing along the wall, and stopped at the base of the stairs. Noah? No answer, but she could hear something now. Faint music drifting from upstairs, a song she recognized, one they used to listen to together, sprawled across his bedroom floor, sharing headphones and arguing about the lyrics. She climbed the stairs. Noah's door was open. Inside, the room was exactly as it had been, but occupied now. The bed was rumpled, sheets tangled. The desk chair was pulled out, a notebook open on the surface, pen resting in the crease. And on the bed, half hidden beneath a pillow, was a photograph. Erin picked it up. It was the photo that had been missing from the mantel, the one that had reappeared with her figure erased, except now she was back in it. Both of them grinning, arms around each other, the house rising behind them in perfect, unmarred yellow. But something else had changed. In this version, the background was slightly different. The angle was wrong. The shadows fell in directions that didn't match the original. It was a photo that had never been taken, a photo of something that hadn't happened, or something that was still happening. Erin set it down carefully and turned toward the window. The glass was clear now, no fog, no message. But outside, the light had changed. It wasn't sunset anymore. It was late afternoon. The same time of day it had been 12 years ago, the last time she'd been in this house, the same light that had been streaming through these windows when she'd said goodbye to Noah. What if we never left? The words from the drawing echoed in her mind. Erin moved to the center of the room and sat down on the floor, right where she used to sit, her back against the bed. She took a slow breath and spoke into the silence. I should have stayed that night. The words came easier than she expected. I should have been here. I should have woken up when the fire started. I should have. Her voice cracked. I'm sorry, Noah. I'm so sorry. The room seemed to exhale around her, and then so softly she almost didn't hear it. It wasn't your fault. Erin's eyes flew open. Noah was sitting beside her, not a shadow, not a trick of the light. Him, solid and real and 17 years old, wearing the same faded Joy Division t-shirt he'd worn the last day she'd seen him. Erin's breath left her in a rush. Noah. I know, he said quietly. His voice was exactly as she remembered. Warm, a little rough, achingly familiar. You came back. I heard your voicemail. I had to. I didn't think you'd come. They sat in silence for a moment, not quite looking at each other. What happened? Erin whispered. The fire. I don't remember it, Noah said. Not really. I remember going to bed. I remember feeling like something was wrong. And then I remember waking up, and everything was the same. The house was fine. My mum was downstairs. It was morning, except it wasn't. It was the same morning. Over and over, Erin's chest tightened. How long? I don't know. Noah's voice was hollow. Time doesn't work right here. Sometimes it's the same day for weeks. Sometimes I lose months. I tried to leave once, got all the way to the end of the driveway, and then I was back in my room, like I'd never left. The house won't let you go. No, Noah said softly. I don't think it will. Erin turned to look at him, really look at him, and saw something that made her heart break. He was fading, not physically, not in any way she could point to, but the edges of him were soft, blurred, like a photograph left too long in the sun. Noah, you can't stay here. He smiled, sad, resigned. I don't think I have a choice. Then I'll help you. We'll figure it out. We'll. Erin. He reached out and took her hand. His fingers were cold. I'm not trapped, he said gently. Not anymore. I'm just here. Part of the house. Part of the memory. And that's okay. It's not okay. I'm not alone anymore, he said, and his grip tightened slightly. You came back. Erin's throat closed. She wanted to argue, to insist that they could find a way out, that she could save him. But looking into his eyes, those familiar hollowed-out eyes, she understood. He didn't want to be saved. He wanted to be remembered. I won't forget you, she whispered. Noah's smile widened just slightly. I know. And then, without her noticing the transition, he was gone. Erin blinked, her hand closing around the empty air. She was alone in the room, but it didn't feel empty. She stood slowly, legs stiff, and walked to the window. Outside, the light was fading. True sunset now, the sky deepening to purple and indigo. The yard was empty, the tree stood silent. But the house felt full. Erin turned and walked back through the upstairs hallway, down the stairs, through the living room. She paused at the mantel. The photo was there, both of them, arms around each other, grinning. No erasures, no empty space, just two friends frozen in a moment that had never really ended. Erin touched the frame lightly, her fingers trembling. Goodbye, Noah. She didn't wait for an answer. She walked to the front door, pulled it open, and stepped out onto the porch. The evening air was cool and crisp, the smell of wood smoke drifting from a neighbor's chimney. Down the street, a dog barked. A car passed, headlights cutting through the dusk. Everything was normal. Erin pulled the door closed behind her and started down the porch steps. Halfway to her car, she stopped, turned back. The house stood quiet in the fading light, windows dark now, the porch empty. But as she watched, the porch light flickered. Once, twice, and then it stayed on, glowing softly in the gathering dark. Erin stared at it for a long moment. Then she got in her car, started the engine, and drove away. 3 months later, Erin's sister called her. Hey, just checking in. Haven't heard from you in a while. Sorry, Erin said, distracted. She was standing in her apartment, looking out at the city, the noise, the traffic, the endless movement. I've been busy. You sound tired. You okay? Yeah, I've been thinking about taking a trip. Oh yeah. Where to? Erin paused. The city stretched before her, loud, alive, full of people. It felt wrong, too bright, too fast, too far from where she should be. Just back home, she said quietly. You mean Millbrook? I thought you hated that place. Erin didn't answer. She was already packing. Her fingers moved automatically, folding clothes, gathering toiletries. And there, tucked in the bottom of her closet, was a duffel bag she didn't remember owning. Inside it, a jacket, faded denim, patches on the elbows. She put it on. It fit perfectly. The house on Maple Street stands quiet now. The neighbors don't talk about it much. They pass it on their morning walks, their evening jogs, barely glancing at the pale yellow facade and the white trim. Sometimes, late at night, people report seeing lights in the windows. Sometimes they hear laughter, faint and distant, like an echo from another time. But no one ever knocks. No one ever goes inside, except for Erin. She comes back once a year, always in October, always on the same date. At first, then twice a year, then every few months. Then she stops leaving at all. She parks across the street, walks up the porch steps, and uses the brass key she's never been able to throw away. Inside, the house is exactly as she left it. The couch with its faded green blanket, the photos on the mantel, the mug in the kitchen, always slightly warm. She sits in Noah's room for a while, sometimes reading, sometimes just listening to the silence. And before she leaves, when she still leaves, she always whispers the same words. I remember. The house listens, and in the spaces between memory and forgetting, in the soft glow of the porch light and the quiet creak of old floorboards, Noah listens too, because some places don't let go, and sometimes, when you go back, you don't leave again, not completely, not really. Frank walks his dog past the house on a cold October evening, 5 years after Erin first returned. He glances at the windows, a habit he can't break, and freezes. 2 figures in the upstairs window, standing side by side, looking out at the street, both 17, both smiling, both exactly where they're supposed to be. Frank hurries past, pulling his dog along. He doesn't look back. The porch light flickers once and stays on.